Admiral Sarah Chen floated through the broken remains of New Geneva Station, her boots magnetic against the twisted metal floor. The silence was the worst part. Space stations were never quiet. They hummed with life, buzzed with conversations, rang with the laughter of children. Now there was nothing but the soft hiss of her oxygen recycler and the distant creak of damaged metal. She pushed off from a wall and drifted toward what used to be the main plaza. Bodies floated everywhere. Dr. Martinez, who had been working on new crop systems, the Johnson family, including their 8-year-old daughter, who always waved at Chen during her visits. Commander Torres, who had been planning his retirement next month, all dead. All killed in less than 10 minutes when the crystal ships arrived. Chen activated her comm unit. "This is Admiral Chen, report." "Ma'am, we've completed the search," came Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice. "No survivors in sections A through K. The Vorthak crystal weapons cut right through our shields like they weren't there. Life support was destroyed in the first wave." Chen closed her eyes. New Geneva Station had been home to 12,000 people. Scientists, farmers, engineers, children. The first human deep space colony. Built with hope and dreams of a peaceful future among the stars. "Any word from Earth Command?" Chen asked. "They want a full report, Admiral. The media is going crazy. People are asking why the Vorthak attacked a civilian station." Chen knew why. It was about the Kepler 442 system. Humans had found 3 planets there that could support life. They had asked the Galactic Council for permission to settle, following all the proper procedures. The Council had said no. Humans were too new, too young, too dangerous to be trusted with new worlds. So Earth had decided to settle anyway. The planets were empty. No one lived there. No one was using them. But the Council called it illegal expansion into their space. Chen had expected negotiations. Maybe trade restrictions or diplomatic protests. She never expected this. A new voice crackled through her comm. "Admiral Chen, this is Captain Walsh aboard the destroyer Yorktown. We're receiving a transmission from the Council fleet. They want to talk. Put them through." The voice that came through was cold and mechanical. It was a Vorthak, speaking through their translation devices. "Human Admiral, I am Fleet Commander Zaxthon of the Galactic Council Forces. Your species has been warned about illegal expansion. This station was destroyed as an example of Council resolve." Chen's jaw tightened. This was a civilian station. These were families, children, scientists, not soldiers. Your species does not understand the difference between civilian and military. All humans are aggressive by nature. This was mercy, Admiral. We could have destroyed your entire fleet. Mercy? Chen's voice was barely a whisper. Yes. Mercy. Withdraw all human forces from Council space immediately. Return to your home system. Accept Council oversight of your expansion. Do this and no more stations will be destroyed. Chen looked around at the floating bodies. Mrs. Chen, no relation, but they had shared the same name and laughed about it. She had been a teacher. Her classroom was now open to space. Tiny desks and chairs scattered among the debris. And if we refuse? Chen asked. Then your species will learn what happens to those who defy the Council. 3 races have tried before you. None exist anymore. This is the only mercy you will receive. The transmission ended. Chen floated in silence for a long moment. She had studied the Council races during her years at the Academy. The Vorthak were living crystals, cold and logical. They had been the first to achieve faster-than-light travel, and they built the foundation of the Council. The Zephyrians were like insects, but with a shared mind that made them perfect for coordination. The Nautilians lived in water and were graceful in everything they did. All 3 races were older than humanity. All 3 had technology that was hundreds of years ahead of what Earth could build. All 3 looked at humans like adults looked at dangerous children. Chen activated her comm again. Rodriguez, patch me through to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Yes, ma'am. A few moments later, General Harrison's face appeared on her screen. He looked tired and worried. Sarah, we saw the reports. How bad is it? 12,000 dead, sir. The Vorthak fleet destroyed everything. They're calling it mercy and demanding we withdraw from all Council space. Harrison rubbed his forehead. The President is meeting with the Security Council now. Half of them want to negotiate. The other half want to fight. What do you want, sir? Harrison was quiet for a moment. I want those families to still be alive. But they're not. The question now is, do we let this stand or do we respond? Chen thought about little Katie Johnson, who had wanted to be a space pilot like her. She thought about Dr. Martinez, who had been so excited about his new potato varieties. She thought about Commander Torres, who just wanted to see his grandchildren again. Sir, the council thinks we're primitive. They think we'll roll over and accept this because they're stronger. They are stronger, Sarah. Their technology is decades ahead of ours. Their fleets outnumber us 50-1. But they don't know us, sir. They study our history and see wars and violence, so they think we're just aggressive animals. But they don't understand why we fight. Why do we fight, Admiral? Chen looked at the bodies floating around her. We fight because we love something more than we fear dying. They killed 12,000 people to send a message. They think that will make us afraid, won't it? Chen's voice was steady and cold. No, sir. It will make us angry. And they have no idea what angry humans are capable of. Harrison nodded slowly. I'll tell the president. What do you need? Time to get our people ready, and permission to show the council what humans really are. After the call ended, Chen floated alone among the dead. She had been an admiral for 10 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The council races fought wars, but they followed rules. They targeted military assets and avoided civilian casualties when possible. They fought for territory and resources and political advantage. They didn't understand that humans were different. When someone hurt their families, humans didn't think about politics or territory or resources. They thought about justice. They thought about making sure it never happened again. The council had studied human military history and seen chaos and brutality. What they missed was that humans fought hardest when they were protecting something they loved. They missed that human ingenuity came not from careful planning, but from desperate necessity. They missed that humans had been preparing for this day since the moment they met the council. Chen activated her comm one more time. This is Admiral Chen to all Earth Defense Forces. Report to your stations immediately. Operation Prometheus is now active. Across human space, secret facilities began powering up. Hidden factories started production. Sleeper agents who had been waiting for years received activation codes. Ships that didn't officially exist began moving toward jump points. The Council had wanted to teach humanity about mercy. They were about to learn about rage instead. Chen took one last look around the destroyed station. I'm sorry, she whispered to the dead, but they're going to pay for this. She turned and headed back to her ship. The war was about to begin, and humanity was going to show the galaxy exactly what they were made of. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in front of the largest screen anyone on Earth had ever built. The underground facility stretched for miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, hidden so deep that even satellite scans couldn't detect it. For 50 years, it had been humanity's biggest secret. Show them everything, Admiral Chen said from behind him. She had arrived from New Geneva Station just hours ago, and she still had ice crystals on her uniform from the destroyed station's atmosphere. The Earth Defense Council sat around a curved table, their faces lit by the massive display. President Martinez, General Harrison, Director Kim from Intelligence, and a dozen others who held humanity's future in their hands. Webb pressed a button, and the screen came alive with images of ships unlike anything the public had ever seen. They were sleek and dark, with angles that seemed to bend light around them. Ladies and gentlemen, Webb said, welcome to Project Prometheus. What you're seeing are the fruits of 50 years of preparation. President Martinez leaned forward. These are human ships? Yes, ma'am. We have been reverse engineering alien technology since first contact. But we didn't stop there. We improved it. The screen showed a cutaway view of one ship. Inside, there were no crew quarters, no life support systems, no kitchens or sleeping areas. These ships are controlled by artificial intelligence, Webb continued. Not simple computer programs, but true AI that can think, learn, and adapt faster than any biological mind. General Harrison frowned. AI warfare was banned by the Treaty of Geneva. The Treaty of Geneva was written before we knew about the Council, Webb replied. Before we knew there were species out there who would target our children to make a point. The screen changed to show a star map. Red dots marked council systems. Blue dots marked human colonies. But there were also green dots scattered throughout council space. Dozens of them. We have been preparing for this possibility since first contact, Webb said. While our diplomats talked peace and our merchants traded goods, our agents were mapping every council system, studying their defenses and placing assets. Director Kim spoke up. What kind of assets? manufacturing facilities hidden in asteroid fields and dead systems, weapons caches on uninhabited moons, sleeper agents who have been living normal lives on Council worlds for decades, waiting for activation. The screen showed images of massive factory ships, their hulls studded with construction equipment and matter converters. These mobile facilities can turn asteroids into warships in a matter of weeks. Each facility can produce 50 ships per month, and we have 30 facilities. President Martinez did the math in her head. 1,500 ships per month? That's just the beginning, Webb said. The ships can replicate themselves using raw materials. Exponential growth. In 6 months, we'll have more ships than the entire Council fleet. The screen changed again, showing weapons that looked nothing like traditional human or alien designs. Kinetic bombardment systems that can crack planets. Nanoswarms that disassemble enemy ships at the molecular level. Resonance weapons tuned to the specific frequencies of Vorthak crystal structures. Cyber warfare programs designed to exploit the weaknesses of the Zephyrian hive mind. Biological agents that target Nautilin respiratory systems. Admiral Chen stepped forward. The Council thinks they know us because they've studied our history. They see wars and violence and think we're just primitive brutes. What they don't understand is that human warfare evolves. Webb nodded. Every human conflict has taught us something new. The Council races have been at peace for so long, they've forgotten how to adapt. Their tactics haven't changed in centuries. Their technology has stagnated because they've never faced a real challenge. And we have, President Martinez asked. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years, Chen replied. We know how to think like our enemies because we've had to. We've had to innovate because if we didn't, we died. The Council races don't understand that kind of pressure. Webb brought up new images, detailed psychological profiles of each Council species. The Vorthak are perfectly logical, which makes them predictable. Present them with a paradox and their decision-making systems lock up. The Zephyrians share a collective consciousness which makes them efficient but vulnerable to psychological warfare. The Nautilins prize grace and harmony above all else. Introduce chaos into their formations and they fall apart. How long have you been working on this? General Harrison asked. Since the day we met them, Webb replied. Our psychologists have been studying their behavior patterns. Our engineers have been analyzing their technology. Our strategists have been wargaming scenarios. The Council thinks we're simple because we're young. They're about to learn how wrong they are. The screen showed a real-time tactical display. Ships were already moving throughout human space, their icons appearing and disappearing as they jumped between systems. The first phase is already underway. Webb continued. Our ghost fleets are moving to predetermined positions throughout Council space. They've been painted with adaptive camouflage and equipped with stealth systems that make them invisible to Council sensors. How many ships? President Martinez asked. For the opening strike, 2,000. The room fell silent. The entire human fleet, including every military vessel Earth had ever built, numbered less than 500 ships. Where did they come from? Director Kim asked. We've been building in secret for decades, Webb replied. Hidden shipyards in the outer system, automated factories on dead worlds, construction facilities disguised as mining operations. The public fleet was just for show. These are our real teeth. Admiral Chen moved to the tactical display. The Council is expecting us to retreat to Earth and beg for mercy. Instead, they're going to wake up tomorrow to find human ships in 12 of their core systems. What's the objective? General Harrison asked. To show them that targeting civilians was a mistake, Chen replied. We're not going to destroy their cities or kill their families. We're going to do something worse. We're going to show them they're not safe anywhere. The screen showed detailed plans for simultaneous strikes against Council infrastructure. Communications relays, supply depots, administrative centers, and defense platforms. The message is simple, Webb said. You wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. Let us teach you yours. President Martinez looked around the table. Every face was grim but determined. The Council has billions of citizens. Are we really going to war against the entire galaxy? No, ma'am, Chen replied. We're going to war against the Council leadership that authorized the attack on New Geneva Station. The people of those worlds are not our enemies, but their governments need to understand that humanity is not helpless prey. What happens after the strikes? Webb smiled for the first time since the briefing began. Then we see how fast they can adapt. Our AI systems will be learning from every engagement, evolving new tactics in real time. The Council's advantage has always been their technology and their numbers, We're going to neutralize both. The screen showed projections of ship production rates, casualty estimates, and probability matrices for different scenarios. The council races think in terms of centuries, Chen said. They make careful plans and execute them slowly. Humans think in terms of days or weeks. By the time they realize what's happening and adapt their strategy, we'll already be 3 moves ahead. President Martinez stood up. Dr. Webb, Admiral Chen, you're asking me to authorize the most aggressive military action in human history. Yes? Ma'am, Chen replied. Against opponents who outnumber us 50-1, yes. Ma'am? With weapons and strategies that have never been tested in real combat. Yes. Ma'am? President Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at the image of New Geneva Station on one of the smaller screens, twisted metal and floating bodies in the void. They killed children, she said quietly. Yes, ma'am, they did, and they called it mercy. Yes, ma'am, President Martinez nodded slowly. Show them what human mercy looks like. Authorization granted. Across human space, hidden facilities came online. Ghost ships powered up their engines. Sleeper agents checked their equipment and waited for orders. The Council had wanted to send humanity a message. They were about to receive a reply. Fleet Commander Zaxthon had expected the humans to surrender within days. It had been 3 months, and his crystal form was resonating with frequencies of confusion and growing fear. The tactical display in his command chamber showed red warning icons across 12 Council systems. Human ships had appeared simultaneously in all of them, striking with precision that should have been impossible for such a young species. Report from the Kepler-7 system, his communications officer announced. The orbital defense platform has been destroyed. No wreckage detected. Zaxthon's crystalline structure flickered with darker colors. No wreckage? That's impossible. Sir, the human ships appear to be using some kind of molecular disassembly weapon. Our platforms aren't being blown apart. They're being taken apart atom by atom. The same reports had been coming in for weeks. Human weapons that defied understanding. Ships that moved with impossible coordination. Tactics that made no logical sense but somehow worked. On the other side of Council space, Queen Mind Thessarian of the Zephyrians was experiencing her own nightmare. Her species shared a collective consciousness that made them perfect for large-scale military operations. Every Zephyrian could think as one, coordinate as one, act as one, but something was wrong with her network. Report from the 3rd Fleet, one of her subminds transmitted. Ships are receiving conflicting orders. Some are attacking their own escorts. Thessarian focused her attention on the affected fleet. Through the eyes of her drone, she could see Zephyrian ships turning their weapons on each other, following orders that she had never given. Analysis? Unknown, Queen Mind. The commands appear to be coming from within the network itself. Some kind of virus or intrusion program. Thessarian felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. The human cyber warfare programs weren't just jamming their communications. They were infiltrating the hive mind itself, turning her own thoughts against her. Meanwhile, in the deepest ocean trenches of the Nautolan homeworld, Admiral Fluxusara glided through the war room with growing distress. Her people prized grace and harmony above all else. Their military tactics were like underwater dances, beautiful and efficient, but grace meant nothing against chaos. The human ships don't follow any pattern we can predict, reported Sub-Admiral Kelpris. They attack from impossible angles, retreat when they should advance, group when they should scatter. Our formation algorithms cannot adapt to their randomness. Randomness? Fluxusara's bioluminescent patterns showed confusion. All warfare follows logical patterns. There must be a strategy we're missing. If there is, we cannot see it. Their movements appear to be completely random, but somehow they always achieve their objectives. What the Nautilans didn't understand was that human chaos was not random. It was intuitive. Human commanders made decisions based on gut instinct and battlefield improvisation, things that couldn't be programmed into algorithms or predicted by logical analysis. On Nexus Prime, the Council's seat of government, emergency sessions had been called every day for the past month. The 3 Council races sat in their specialized chambers, trying to understand how their crushing superiority had turned into desperate defense. The human fleet numbers are impossible, Zaxthon reported to the assembly. Our intelligence estimated they had fewer than 500 ships. They have deployed over 3,000, with more appearing every day. Queen Mind Thessarian's holographic image flickered as she fought to maintain control over her corrupted network. Their ships are controlled by artificial intelligences that adapt faster than organic minds can counter. Every engagement teaches them something new. Worse, added Admiral Fluxisara, they appear to have studied our psychology extensively. Their attacks target not just our military assets, but our fundamental ways of thinking. The Council had rules for warfare. You declared your intentions, assembled your forces, engaged the enemy in open battle, and achieved victory through superior numbers and technology. It was civilized, predictable, logical. Humans ignored all of those rules. They attacked without warning from directions that should have been impossible. They used weapons that worked in ways Council science couldn't explain. They targeted infrastructure that seemed militarily insignificant, but somehow crippled entire systems. How are they building so many ships? Demanded Councillor Vexithari, the eldest Vorthak representative. Our economic models show it should be impossible. They appear to have hidden manufacturing capabilities we never detected, Zaxthon replied. Automated factories that can convert raw asteroids into warships. The ships themselves can replicate using basic materials. Self-replicating warships? The Sarian's image wavered with disbelief. That technology is theoretical even for us, yet they possess it. And more troubling, their ships show no signs of crew quarters, life support, or any accommodation for organic beings. They are purely artificial constructs. The implications were staggering. The Council races had always assumed that warfare required living beings to make decisions, to adapt, to show initiative. The idea of completely artificial fleets was terrifying. We need to reconsider our strategy, Admiral Fluxisara said. Our current approach is clearly ineffective. Councillor Vexithari's crystal form darkened to deep purple. What do you suggest? We have committed 60% of our total fleet strength. We outnumber them 10-1. Numbers are meaningless if we cannot predict their behavior, Fluxisara replied. We need to understand how they think. They don't think, Zaxthon interjected. That's the problem. They act on emotion, instinct, and irrationality. There is no logic to analyze. But even as he spoke, reports continued to flow in. Human forces had struck simultaneously at targets across 17 systems. Supply convoys had been intercepted by ships that shouldn't have known the convoy routes. Communication arrays had been destroyed by weapons fired from empty space. The humans weren't just fighting a war. They were fighting it in ways the Council had never imagined possible. Sir, Zaxthon's communications officer announced, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through. Admiral Chen's image appeared in the Council chamber. She looked tired but determined, and behind her was the bridge of a ship that looked nothing like any human vessel in Council databases. Council representatives, Chen said, you wanted to teach us about mercy. How are your lessons going? Councillor Vexithari's form flashed with angry reds. Human Admiral, your resistance is impressive but futile. We still outnumber your forces significantly. Chen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. Do you? Are you sure about that? The tactical displays around the Council chamber suddenly lit up with new contacts. Human ships were appearing throughout Council space, not dozens or hundreds, but thousands. You see, Chen continued, you made the mistake of thinking this was about military strength. It's not. It's about understanding. You've been ruling the galaxy for so long you forgot that there are other ways to think. What do you want? Queen Mind Thessarian asked, her collective consciousness struggling to process the scope of human deployment. What do we want? Chen's voice was cold. We want you to understand that killing 12,000 civilians was not mercy. It was murder. And murder has consequences. You cannot sustain this level of deployment, Admiral Fluxisara protested. Your resources must be nearly exhausted. Chen's smile widened. Would you like to test that theory? The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Reports continued to flood in. Human ships were now operating in every Council system, not attacking, just present, watching, waiting. The message was clear, nowhere was safe. How many ships do they have? Councillor Vexthari whispered. No one had an answer. On the bridge of her command ship, Admiral Chen watched the Council's response to humanity's show of force. Their fleets were pulling back to defend their homeworlds. Their trade routes had shut down. Their military coordination was falling apart as each race focused on protecting their own territory. Status report, she requested. All ghost fleets are in position, reported her AI tactical officer. Manufacturing facilities are operating at full capacity. Estimated time to full fleet replacement capability 6 weeks, Chen nodded. The council thought this was about technology or numbers. They still didn't understand that this was about will. Humans would keep building, keep fighting, keep adapting until the threat was eliminated. The council had wanted to send humanity a message about power. Instead, they had taught humanity exactly how much they were willing to sacrifice for their freedom. Now it was time for the council to learn about human determination. Dr. Sarah Kim had never expected her degree in alien psychology to become a weapon of war. Now she stood in the war room aboard Admiral Chen's flagship, surrounded by screens showing the psychological profiles of entire civilizations. The Vorthak are breaking down, she reported to the assembled commanders. Their logical matrices can't process the paradoxes we've been feeding them. When they try to calculate optimal responses to our irrational tactics, their decision-making systems lock up. Admiral Chen studied the data flowing across the screens. How long until complete breakdown? Their military command structure is already showing signs of paralysis. They keep trying to find logical patterns in our attacks, but we're not following any patterns. Every time they think they've figured us out, we change tactics completely. The human strategy was simple but effective. Be unpredictable. While the council races had spent centuries perfecting their military doctrines, humans had learned to think like their enemies while keeping their own thought processes completely alien to council understanding. What about the Zephyrians? Chen asked. Dr. Kim switched to another display showing the hive mind's network architecture. Their collective consciousness is fragmenting. Our cyber warfare programs have introduced competing thought patterns into their network. Parts of their hive mind are literally arguing with other parts. And the Nautilians? Complete tactical confusion. Their formations are designed for grace and harmony. Our chaos-based attack patterns are like throwing random noise into a symphony. They can't adapt because adaptation requires understanding the pattern. And we're not giving them any patterns to understand. Commander Torres, the fleet's strategic planning officer, stepped forward. Ma'am, we're receiving reports that the council fleets are starting to withdraw to defensive positions around their homeworlds. Exactly as predicted, Chen replied. They're abandoning their unified command structure and reverting to individual species defense. The alliance is cracking. This had been the humans' masterpiece, not just military defeat but psychological warfare designed to exploit the fundamental differences between the council races. While they had worked together for centuries, their cooperation was based on shared superiority over younger species. Remove that sense of superiority, and the cracks in their alliance became chasms. Initiate Phase 3, Chen ordered. Across human space, new orders went out to sleeper agents who had been waiting decades for activation. These weren't spies in the traditional sense. They were humans who had lived normal lives on council worlds, working, raising families, becoming part of their communities. On the Vorthak crystal city of Nexus 7, Dr. Marcus Hoffman had been teaching human literature at the university for 15 years. His Vorthak colleagues respected his insights into human emotional irrationality. They had no idea that his real expertise was in psychological warfare. Hoffman activated his hidden equipment and began broadcasting carefully crafted messages into the Vorthak communication network. Not propaganda or threats, but philosophical paradoxes designed to exploit the way Vorthak minds processed information. If logic demands that you destroy a species to preserve peace, his message began. But destroying them proves that peace was never possible. Was the original logical conclusion actually logical? Similar messages went out across the Vorthak network, each one crafted to create cognitive loops that their crystal minds couldn't resolve. On the Zephyrian world of Hive Secundus, Maria Santos had been working as a systems analyst for the Planetary Communication Network. Her access codes, given to her 20 years ago when she first arrived, still worked perfectly. She uploaded a program that would introduce subtle delays in the hive mind's communication network, not enough to be noticed immediately, but enough to create tiny synchronization errors that would compound over time. The Zephyrian collective consciousness required perfect timing to function. Even microsecond delays could cause massive disruptions. On the ocean world of Nautilus Prime, James Park had been living underwater for 12 years, studying Nautilan culture and philosophy. His research into their aesthetic principles had earned him respect among their scholars. Now he used that knowledge to create disruption patterns that would appear random to human observers, but would strike Nautolan minds like fingernails on a chalkboard. Their aesthetic sense was so refined that exposure to calculated ugliness was literally painful for them. The results were devastating. Within hours, Vorthak command centers were reporting decision paralysis as their commanders struggled with unsolvable logical paradoxes. Zephyrian fleets were breaking formation as synchronization errors cascaded through their hive mind. Nautolan admirals were requesting medical assistance as their crews became unable to function in proximity to the disruption patterns. Status report from all fronts, Admiral Chen requested. Vorthak 3rd Fleet has stopped responding to orders, reported Commander Torres. Their ships are holding position but not maneuvering. It appears their command crew is stuck in analytical loops. Zephyrian 1st Hive Fleet is breaking apart. Individual ships are acting independently, but their coordination is completely gone. They're effectively fighting as separate units instead of a unified force. Nautolan Deep Fleet has withdrawn to minimum engagement range. Their crews are reporting severe disorientation and are requesting permission to abandon their positions. Chen nodded with grim satisfaction. And our own forces? All human fleets report ready for final offensive operations. Manufacturing facilities have produced an additional 2,000 ships in the past week. AI coordination systems are operating at full efficiency. The numbers were staggering. In 6 months, humanity had gone from a few hundred ships to over 10,000. More importantly, every human ship was controlled by an artificial intelligence that learned from every engagement, adapted to every challenge, and coordinated perfectly with every other AI in the fleet. Ma'am, Dr. Kim interrupted. We're receiving surrender requests from individual council commanders. Not from their governments, but from field officers who can no longer function. Chen studied the messages flowing across her screen. Vorthak fleet commanders requesting relief from duty because they couldn't make decisions. Zephyrian submines asking to be disconnected from their hive network. Nautolan captains begging for assignment to non-combat duties. The psychological pressure is working, Dr. Kim continued. We're not just defeating their military forces, we're breaking their will to fight. Admiral, Commander Torres announced. We're receiving a priority transmission from Nexus Prime. It's from the Council itself. Chen straightened. Put it through. The main screen showed the 3 council leaders in their emergency session chamber. All 3 looked exhausted and defeated. Councillor Vexathari spoke first, his crystal form flickering with dim, defeated colors. Human Admiral Chen, the council requests negotiations. Negotiations? Chen's voice was ice cold. 3 months ago, you called the destruction of New Geneva Station an act of mercy. What happened to that mercy? Queen Mind Thessarian's image was unstable, flickering as her hive mind struggled to maintain coherence. We underestimated your capabilities. You underestimated our resolve, Chen corrected. You thought killing our children would make us afraid. Instead, it made us angry. And now you want to negotiate because you're losing. Admiral Fluxisara's bioluminescent patterns showed desperate pleading. Please, Admiral. Our forces are in disarray. Our people are suffering. Surely you can show mercy. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Around the bridge, her human crew waited to see how she would respond. Mercy, she said finally. Let me tell you about mercy. Mercy is what we showed you for 50 years while you treated us like dangerous children. Mercy is what we offered when we asked permission to settle empty worlds. Mercy is what you threw away when you decided to teach us our place in the galaxy. The 3 council leaders looked at each other with growing desperation. However, Chen continued, we are not you. We do not target civilians to make political points. We do not destroy families to send messages. So yes, we will show mercy. But it will be human mercy, not council mercy. What are your terms? Councillor Vexathari asked. Chen smiled, but it was not a kind expression. Unconditional surrender. Complete withdrawal of all council forces from disputed systems. Reparations for the families killed at New Geneva Station. And most importantly, acknowledgement that humanity is not a subject species to be managed by your council. That would mean the end of council authority over the galaxy. Admiral Fluxisara protested. Yes, Chen replied simply. It would. The transmission ended, leaving the council to consider their options. On the bridge of her flagship, Admiral Chen turned to her staff. Final offensive preparations. If they refuse our terms, we finish this. Admiral, Dr. Kim asked. What if they agree to surrender? Chen looked at the tactical display showing human ships throughout Council space. Every red dot represented a human fleet that had been built in secret, crewed by artificial intelligences, and armed with weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Then we make sure they never forget the lesson, she said. The galaxy thought it knew what humans were capable of. Time to show them they were wrong. The Council had started this war to put humanity in its place. The great crystal halls of Nexus Prime had never hosted a surrender ceremony before. In 500 years of Council rule, no species had ever forced the three founding races to kneel. Today that was about to change. Admiral Sarah Chen walked through corridors that had been designed to intimidate visitors with their alien grandeur. Vorthak crystal architecture reached toward impossible heights, while Zephyrian biomechanical art covered the walls in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Nautilin water features created a constant symphony of flowing sounds meant to soothe their aquatic sensibilities. None of it impressed Chen anymore. Behind her walked the representatives of humanity's new order. General Harrison from Earth Defense Command, Dr. Webb from Project Prometheus, Director Kim from Intelligence. President Martinez had wanted to come personally, but someone needed to stay on Earth to coordinate the rebuilding efforts. The main council chamber was a massive sphere designed to accommodate all three species' environmental needs. Crystal formations for the Vorthak, atmospheric moisture controllers for the Zephyrians, pressure-controlled water channels for the Nautilons. The three council leaders waited in the center, no longer the proud rulers of a galactic empire, but defeated commanders hoping for terms they could live with. Councillor Vex Thari's crystal form had lost most of its color, fading to the pale gray that indicated Vorthak despair. Queen Mind Thessarian appeared as a flickering hologram, her hive mind too damaged to maintain a stable projection. Admiral Fluxisara floated in her mobility tank, her bioluminescent patterns dim and defeated. Admiral Chen, Vexathari spoke first, his voice carrying none of the arrogance it had held 6 months ago. The Council is prepared to discuss surrender terms. Chen stopped in the center of the chamber, her human delegation arranged behind her. She looked at each of the alien leaders in turn, remembering the last time she had heard from them. 6 months ago, you told me that destroying New Geneva Station was an act of mercy, she said. You told me that my species needed to learn our place in the galaxy. You told me that 3 other races had tried to defy you, and none existed anymore. The 3 council leaders remained silent. Today, your fleets are scattered. Your military command structure has collapsed. Your alliance is fractured beyond repair, and you're begging for the mercy you refused to show my people. Queen Mind Thessarian's image flickered as she struggled to maintain coherence. Admiral, we acknowledge that we misjudged human capabilities. We are prepared to offer significant concessions. Concessions? Chen's voice was dangerously quiet. You think this is a negotiation? She gestured to the displays around the chamber that showed the current military situation. Human ships controlled every major system in Council space. Their manufacturing facilities were producing new vessels faster than entire Council fleets could be rebuilt. Most importantly, the psychological warfare had left Council forces unable to function effectively, even when they outnumbered human fleets. This is not a negotiation, Chen continued. This is a surrender ceremony. The only question is whether it will be unconditional surrender, or whether we continue the war until your species are extinct. Admiral Fluxisara's patterns showed desperate fear. Surely you don't mean to destroy entire civilizations. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Around the chamber, the weight of her decision hung in the air. The human fleets had the capability to do exactly that. Their weapons could crack planets. Their nanoswarms could disassemble entire cities. Their AI-controlled ships could hunt down every council vessel in the galaxy. No, Chen said finally. We don't. Because we are not you. The relief in the chamber was palpable. However, Chen continued, and the relief died instantly. The galaxy is going to change. Permanently. She activated a holographic display showing the new political structure humanity had designed. First, the Galactic Council as a governing body is dissolved. The 3 founding races no longer have authority over other species. Councillor Vexathari's crystal form flashed with weak protest. That will mean chaos. Younger species need guidance. Like the guidance you gave us? Chen's voice was ice cold. The kind of guidance that involves killing children to make political points? She moved to the next part of the display. Second, reparations. Each council race will provide compensation to the families of those killed at New Geneva Station. Additionally, you will fund the reconstruction of every facility destroyed in this war. The economic burden will be enormous, Admiral Fluxisara protested. So was the cost of this war, Chen replied. You started it, you'll pay for it. The third section of the display showed territorial redistributions. Third, all systems claimed by the Council but not actively inhabited will be opened for settlement by any species that wishes to colonize them. The days of keeping empty worlds as strategic reserves are over. Some of those systems have been claimed for centuries, Queen Mind Thessarian objected, and you've done nothing with them. Other species need living space. You'll share. The fourth section was the one that made all three council leaders react with visible distress. Fourth, human oversight of council military forces. No council race may maintain a military force larger than what is necessary for local system defense. All offensive military operations must be approved by human military command. You're making us into protectorates, Vexthari said, his crystal structure flickering with humiliated anger. You're lucky we're not making you into footnotes in history books, Chen replied. You had the chance to coexist peacefully. You chose war instead. The fifth and final section of the display was the most comprehensive. Fifth, the establishment of a new galactic government based on principles of justice rather than strength. Every species gets representation proportional to their population, not their military power. Disputes are resolved through arbitration, not force, and the targeting of civilian populations for any reason is declared a crime against all sentient life. Admiral Fluxisara's bioluminescent pattern showed confusion. You're creating a government where you won't have absolute power. That's right, Chen said. Because absolute power is what corrupted you. Humans will have significant influence because of our military strength, but every species will have a voice. She moved to stand directly in front of the three council leaders. This is human mercy. We could have done to you what you tried to do to us. We could have made your species extinct. Instead, we're giving you the chance to be part of something better. Councillor Vexithari was quiet for a long time, his crystal form processing the implications. And if we refuse these terms? Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we continue the war until you don't have the capacity to refuse anything. The three leaders looked at each other, communicating through methods humans couldn't detect. Finally, Vexithari spoke for all of them. The council accepts your terms. Chen nodded. Good. Dr. Webb will provide you with the detailed implementation schedules. General Harrison will coordinate the military transitions. Director Kim will oversee the establishment of the new governmental structure. She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at the defeated council leaders. One more thing. There are memorials being built on New Geneva Station for the 12,000 people you killed.
Every council leader for the rest of time?
We'll visit those memorials once a year and remember the cost of your arrogance. 6 months later, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, rebuilt, expanded, and now serving as the capital of the new Galactic Federation. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of species docked at the station's ports. A young girl, maybe 8 years old, ran up to the window and pressed her nose against it. She was human, but her best friend appeared to be a young Vorthak whose crystal form sparkled with curiosity, rather than the cold logic of adult members of his species. Admiral Chen, the girl asked. My teacher says you fought in the war. Is that true? Chen knelt down to the girl's level. Yes, I did. Were you scared? Chen thought about New Geneva Station filled with floating bodies, about the moment she decided humanity would never again be victims of someone else's idea of mercy. Yes, she said. I was scared. But sometimes being scared doesn't matter. Sometimes you have to do what's right even when it's frightening. The girl nodded seriously, then ran off to continue playing with her alien friend. Chen stood and looked out at the bustling station. Vorthak merchants traded with human manufacturers. Zephyrian researchers collaborated with Nautilin artists. Dozens of species that had been kept under council control for centuries were finally free to explore, to grow, to become whatever they chose to be. The old galaxy was dead. The new one was just beginning. Behind her, a soft chime indicated an incoming message. Chen activated her personal communicator and saw President Martinez's face. Sarah, how are things at the station? Chen watched a group of alien children playing with human children in the station's central park. Peaceful, Madam President. Finally peaceful. Good. The council representatives have completed their annual memorial visit. All three seemed subdued. Chen nodded. Good. They should remember. Any regrets about how we handled things? Chen was quiet for a moment, watching the children play. We showed them mercy they didn't deserve and justice they didn't expect.